This week, the amazing world of MIT, where the robots build the tables, the chairs build themselves, and the music goes berserk. Welcome to Click. I'm Spencer Kelly, and welcome to the Distributed Robotics Lab at MIT, where these guys are doing something that all humans hope we won't have to do in the future. They're building furniture really slowly, but it is doing it. It's got the screw in, and that's better than me for a start. The grip here is just 4 rubber bands, but as it twists, it manages to grip the table leg properly. Each piece of the furniture has a unique pattern of reflective balls on the robots too, and there's a whole array of infrared sensors around the top of the room. So the computer system running this demo knows where everything is. So the point of this demonstration is to work towards robots that can work together collaboratively to build complex structures. It's only a table today, but you can imagine one day it's a whole space station, and this is just the beginnings of the research into that area. IKEABot is just one of countless projects here at MIT, one of the most famous universities in the world. It spans over a mile of the bank of the Charles River in Cambridge, Massachusetts, just across from Boston. Wow. Believe it or not, though, it's only 200 years old, a mere spring chicken compared to the original University of Cambridge in the UK and the near millennial Oxford.
MIT was founded with the motto, mens et manus, mind and hand. And it's that commitment to the academic pursuits alongside manual labor, alongside the mechanical arts and industry and commerce.
MIT has been responsible for many of the things that we take for granted. The Gillette razor, transistor radio, electronic ink, the spreadsheets, and most importantly of all, condensed soup. If you add up the sales of every company founded by MIT alumni, you'd have the 11th largest economy in the world. There are over 11,000 students studying here and more than 1,000 academics. Among them, some of the smartest minds we've ever had. Richard Feynman, physics legend, Kofi Annan, Buzz Aldrin, the guy who invented email, the guy who founded Hewlett-Packard, William Hewlett, studied here in '36 and founded HP 3 years later. With 81 Nobel laureates to its name, MIT has squarely set its sights on solving some of the world's biggest and most challenging problems.
The issues of the planet are profound, and MIT has to make a contribution in that space. We have the skills and we have the people who can make a real difference. And I think what you see here is a commitment to making that happen.
The Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, or CSAIL for short, is the largest research lab here at MIT. And it's also the weirdest looking.
Looks like Gaudi's had a go at that one.
Anyway, it's here that we enroll on our journey. So the Distributed Robotics Lab at CSAIL looks like this. I mean, I have no idea what that is. This is Baxter, it's a very famous robot. This is beautiful. This is a robotics project as well. More on that in a second. The occasional oscilloscope just hanging around. And here, a man sat under a sun umbrella that's covered in lights. Here's a robotic garden full of programmable, moving LED flowers and designed to illustrate some, shall we say, less visually interesting, but nevertheless essential computer science techniques.
It's difficult to get some young students, and in particular girls, interested in computer science, and this is a really colorful and visually pleasing and artful way to kind of demonstrate some basic computer science concepts.
Concepts like fundamental algorithms that every computer scientist needs to know, such as how to find the shortest path from A to B. Computers do it by exploring all the different routes until they've found the shortest route. This garden makes that look sexy. Demonstrated here by the flowers changing colour as the software tries different routes, the shortest path eventually turning green. This sheep is having a real go at this rose.
Oh, yeah.
Can I move him?
One of the main missions of this lab in particular is to develop robots that can think for themselves and work together to solve increasingly complex problems by assembling themselves into complex shapes and even pushing the limits of what we think of as robots.
We are interested in making soft-bodied robots where the body of the robot looks more like muscles, and for that reason it's much safer to interact with and to be around. Also has a different range of capabilities. It's also very important to rethink how we make robots. Give me a robot that will play with my cat while I'm at work, or give me a robot that will pick up all the toys from my living room floor.
And this is how far that particular project has come so far. Software that will design electronics and exoskeleton schematics and then print out a cardboard robot body to solve a specific problem.
So right now what we have is a system where you describe the solution to the problem. So you can say, all right, well, in order to accomplish this goal, I need to be able to drive forward, I want to be able to talk, I want to be able to listen. From that description, it'll go ahead and give you like a first pass layout of a robot. It'll tell you which electronics you need and how to connect them all together. And it'll give you the software that you can run on the robot itself. It'll give you a smartphone interface so that you can go around and control it with, with whatever phone you have.
It sounds pretty complete, but you haven't got it to actually be able to ask the questions and work out.
It's still user assisted. The higher level task that still needs to be addressed is how do we go from the task description to the solution?
It's early days, but these might one day be the machines that design themselves. And until all robots become indestructible enough to bounce off walls and fall off surfaces, they will need to be able to navigate their environments as accurately as we do, possibly using Mike Salvato's research, which takes a Kinect 3D scanner out of the living room to accurately map the inside of the C-cell building.
When you put a robot in a room, it has no idea where it is. And so it wants to create a map of that room. And at the same time, it wants to know where it is in that map. This is the SLAM problem. With something like this, you can create a very high-resolution 3D map. You can see the whole world. So you have this camera on top, right? And this is $150, I think, something like that. Yeah, and so what you end up being able to do with this is you can put it on cheap robot and you can create a map of this entire area. This is opposed to, $10,000 laser scanners that are usually used for this purpose. So that's one of the great benefits of this.
Of course, there's other important research going on at MIT aside from robotics. On a medical tip, the Institute is looking at how smart we can get with our own health. And Dan Simmons has been to the lab that's creating the tech that could replace a visit to the doctors.
Inside this lab, jointly funded by MIT and Harvard, they're working on the future of the humble bandage.
The goal is to have a smart Band-Aid that can monitor the wound environment. We have placed multiple sensors on the Band-Aid that can monitor the wound in temperature, pH, oxygen, and then interfere if something goes wrong.
They put particles on the back here which contain the treatment, and those shrink when they're heated up by the heating filament in the back. So when the plaster says it's time to deliver the treatment, it gets warm, the particles shrink, and the treatment is delivered straight onto the wound.
The Band-Aid will send a signal to a remote device that the doctor can monitor, and if there's a problem, depending on the type of problem, if the pH is high, maybe there's bacterial infection, he can press a button to deliver more drugs to combat the problem.
So it can be done remotely. This is remote care.
That is correct.
These innovative patches need funding though, and a commercial version of them, if the research is picked up, could be 2 years away. In another area of the lab, they're experimenting making something else. This machine prints human tissue.
This 3D blood vessel structure could be patched into a damaged organ, say a heart for example, to speed recovery. The advantage of this system is that the tissue can be custom made for each patient, so it's much more likely to work. Eventually, they hope that this system could be used to produce whole organs.
This technique has already created 3D tissues that have been successfully patched into the hearts of mice. But perhaps the most immediate effects of medical research led by the alumni of MIT is in diagnosis. Anita Goel has won an X Prize Foundation challenge worth $500,000 by creating a box that will tell you if you've got AIDS, Ebola, or just common garden flu. Tests that in the past could take months can be done by the gene radar in under an hour and with just a drop of blood. This is the first time they've allowed cameras in to film the real thing in action.
Diagnosing disease is the first step to managing the disease, and a correct diagnosis. And what we're providing with Gene Radar is a tool and a system to democratize access to that healthcare information and really empowering people to take ownership over their own health.
Its inventor has studied the nature of DNA for most of her working life. The Gene Radar doesn't just save time, it could cut costs by more than 99%. Its size means it could be deployed quickly and in remote areas, helping to stop epidemics and offer certainty to someone's condition even if they don't show symptoms. So what is Dr. Goel waiting for?
This is a case where the technology is ready, but we need a global ecosystem of adopters and partners to help change the paradigm in healthcare from a highly centralized model to a more decentralized, more democratized, more personalized model.
Each of these inventions have the possibility to save lives if researchers can attract enough hard cash for their ideas.
That was Dan Simmons, and now, injuries aside, it's time to hit the sports hall. Yep, I used to be an ace basketball player myself, as this totally not doctored at all footage demonstrates. And it's here that I decided to meet some of the students who are working and playing at MIT.
I mean, thank you. I've been doing that all evening, actually. So what do you study?
I'm studying mechanical engineering.
Computer science. Chemical engineering.
I just wanted to know what life is like here.
Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's somewhat fun in the end. It's enjoyable. There's good and bad.
I mean, everyone here is really brilliant, but like everyone's willing to work with each other, so that's what's awesome. So it's not competitive at all. So like, if
not
I'm
competitive.
Not competitive. If I'm struggling, I'm sure I have a friend or someone that's willing to help me out and teach me to get the concepts that I'm struggling with.
Unlike some colleges, MIT doesn't offer up scholarships to people based only on their sporting promise. They're all here on their own academic merit, meaning they have some seriously smart sports teams.
I think it's more the people you meet here and the opportunities you create within here. And I'm very interested in entrepreneurship, and I think a lot of students here are interested in doing their own thing.
Guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
OK, let's pause our trip around MIT for just a couple of minutes as we look at this week's tech news.
Away from MIT and Facebook this week introduced Live for Mentions. It's the latest live streaming tool, but unlike Periscope or Meerkat, this one's only available for celebrities. Names already signed up include Martha Stewart, Michael Bublé, and yes, the legend that is The Rock. It was also the week where gamers got angry at Angry Birds 2's in-app purchases. BBC presenters imagined technology built into their hands. And the world bade a sad farewell to Hitchbot, the hitchhiking robot that was created to see whether robots could trust humans. Well, that answered that question. R.I.P. Hitchbot, we hardly knew you. But it was the week that the hoverboard finally became reality. Well, nearly. Clearly not at all a publicity stunt, one car manufacturer created a board using superconductors, magnets, and yes, liquid nitrogen. Those of you saying, shut up and take my money, hold your horses, it only works on a specially built and quite expensive metallic skate park. Back to the future? More like back to the drawing board. Meanwhile, researchers at Google and MIT have created this, an algorithm that gets rid of pesky reflections in your photos. The technique separates the foreground from the background using frames from a short video. This means no annoying window reflections, and it even makes a special picture of what it's removed for you. You know, just in case you wanted to keep it for all eternity.
In the future, we'll interact with technology through not just the medium of touching a keyboard or a screen, but also the medium of sounds, the medium of sight, the medium of Lego. And that's what they're investigating here at the Media Lab.
A place to play with stuff, physical stuff.
Spoon, spoon, spoon. Tray, spoon, 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 spoon.
Marvin Minsky and Ed Fredkin, two computer science professors at MIT, designed the Tridex Muse.
The Tridex Muse.
And it was the first product that was an algorithmic music generator. You just turn it on and it makes music. This is the modular synthesizer I built about 30, 40 years ago, and I'm adding a lot of complexity.
Yeah, basically that's what it sounds like inside my head a lot of the time.
It's got that 8-bit flavor.
Joe Paradiso really does love turning numbers into art. He's tapped into the Media Lab building's sensors in an experiment to investigate how we might access, interpret, and visualize all of the data produced by the world around us.
We have motion sensors, we have microphones, we have temperature humidity sensors here. We're intrigued at what happens when all the sensor information comes together. We're approaching an era where you're not going to look at sensors as part of an individual product or system. They're going to be part of a whole ecosystem of sensing that comes together and projects action and context back down into your environment.
The building's sounds, temperature, humidity, and the movement of people are all represented graphically and, says Joe, can give you a sense of being in the room, even if you're watching things from afar.
We can have the feeling that we're kind of there. We can hear sounds as we float around. They all crossfade and change. We can see visual indicators of people moving around through the graphics. But when we're not really there, we're kind of in a ghostly fashion there.
It's not just buildings either. Joe's team has installed sensors in a marshland about an hour or so outside of Boston, an environment which is under no control but its own.
There's no control panel because it's not doing anything. This is a natural landscape that's doing its own thing. So we're really monitoring it, plugging people into it, and there we're closer to the pure idea of presence. We also thought about it as a canvas for future artists, right? Because the world has got all this wonderful complexity that we're starting to measure with sensors and transform it into something kind of beautiful that you can visit anytime and just kind of float there, be there. So we see this as a new canvas for the artists of the future.
Now, while Joe and his students are using sensors like these essentially just for art at the moment, there are some projects which are using the abundance of data and low-cost sensors for more practical purposes. LJ Rich has been growing her own food.
This is a grove. It's stuffed with greenery and technology. It's a self-contained system. The fish at the bottom make the fertiliser for the plants, and the plants filter the water clean for the fish. And it's designed to go in your house.
People now are moving into cities and urbanizing and living in smaller spaces, and weather conditions are changing. So a grove just allows people to garden wherever they live. Jamie, my best friend and now my co-founder, started growing his own food in our shared fraternity room. It cleaned our air. We were eating healthy out of it every day, and it really made our fraternity room the centerpiece of really our friend circle. But really, we're just bringing natural ecosystems into people's homes so they can grow their own food.
So this is an early prototype. The lights here mimic the rays of the sun, and this sort of compact design becomes a vertical design where instead of fluorescent lights at the top, you've got LED lighting. That gives you a few extra things, including higher efficiency, controllability, and you can program it from an app. Sensors currently measure several things, from air temperature and humidity to light levels. The app will control lights, fans and pumps and gamify the process. The finished system aims to collect a few hundred data points every day to crowdsource the best way to grow something. The power of this distributed farming approach, whether in a grove or not, is that if lots of people are growing small quantities of food at the same time as large farms, the world's food supply becomes more resilient, as long as you remember to feed the workers.
Given enough time, these randomly swirling shapes will do something very clever. They will stick together, assembling themselves into the same lattice structure every time. It's their shape and the position of the magnets on their sides that guarantees that self-same pattern. Welcome to the world of self-assembling materials.
If we look at the processes of assembly outside of the human scale, how planets form, or we look at very small scales, chemistry, biology, physics in general, it's very different than how we build at human scales. And so we're interested in an alternate process, maybe something that opens up construction possibilities where it's dangerous or where it's difficult today.
It's a very hot topic these days. Indeed, it's the subject of the new Disney movie Big Hero 6.
Microbots!
And here at MIT, I've come to see the start of making that science fiction into fact. Skylar Tibbetts has been working on all kinds of materials that can go from a random clump to a predetermined shape. All that you need is to apply a little energy.
Maybe it can be powered through change in temperature, or sunlight, or moisture.
Or the turbulence of water, which can, over several hours, bump and tumble this clump of parts into a chair. The secret, again, is that particular combination of magnets and the unique locking pattern on each end of each piece. They only fit together one way.
We're proposing that we can do this at larger scales. Products, electronic components that can assemble themselves, or even large structures like infrastructure and buildings and space stations. The other category is our programmable materials, and that's looking at new forms of products where the materials are more adaptive and transform themselves on the fly to adapt to the environment, the user, different scenarios.
Printing a layer of special material to carbon fiber will make it curl in a particular direction when exposed to heat, allowing, for example, aircraft parts to change shape at different speeds and altitudes. This is not a world of intelligent materials, not yet, but it's certainly a step towards a future where design is not left completely to the human designers.
In the future, we're thinking that machines could be a collaborator, and that you don't necessarily send the end result, but that machine proposes a result that you haven't sent it. Meaning the machine proposes a solution, a design solution that's potentially better than you could have come up with.
And that's it for Click from MIT, but you can follow our adventures online. bbc.co.uk/click is the website. We also live at BBC Click on Twitter. You'll find more from us every single day there too. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.